Hi everybody, Everett Young here, and welcome to the most basic music theory lesson ever, part 2. Before we begin, let me remind you to relax and open your mind to music theory. Learning theory can produce anxiety, but let me take away at least some of that anxiety by saying that I really don't want you to try really hard to memorize the things I'm telling you. So instead of memorization, I just want you to understand. Just relax and understand the things I'm telling you. These concepts are concepts that you'll use thousands of times throughout your musical adventure, and you'll eventually remember all the necessary details just through repetition. You can watch this video as many times as you want, or you can ask me, or you can ask your teacher at home to remind you of these things as often as you wish. So really don't try to commit this information to memory. Instead, just make sure you understand it as you watch it, and then relax. And if you forget the details, no problem. Okay, now let's go over to the keyboard. And if you've got a piano at home, get your piano or your keyboard out. Music theory is best learned at a keyboard, so let's go. Okay, so now we really are picking up where we left off. We know that a C major chord is composed of C, E, and G. C major. Now, what is a C major scale? I can play a C major scale by starting on C and playing all the white keys up to the next C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and back down. Now you'll recognize the sound of this scale as Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. Should be a very familiar sound to you, the major scale. So I want to state some important things about the C major scale. First thing is, every white key is in the C major scale. The C major scale is, in fact, composed of all the white keys and no black keys. Every other major scale there is has black keys, known as sharps and flats. So that makes C major the easiest scale to play and the easiest scale to remember. And we can say that all the white keys, all the letter-named notes that don't have a sharp or flat in them, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, all those notes are in the key of C major. So the notes that are in the key of C major are just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Okay, the second thing I want to say, we can number the notes in a C major scale. C would be called the first note, or the root. D would be called the second note, or just the second, or the 2 of C. E would be the third, or the 3 of C major. F would be the 4. G would be the 5. A the 6. B the 7. C is the 8, but we wouldn't call it the 8 because we're back to the root, so we would just call it the root, or the first. The third thing I want to point out, all the notes of the C major chord, all of those notes are in the C major scale. In fact, let's note that it's the root, the third, and the 5th of the C major scale that make the C major chord. We might just call it the root, the third, and the 5th of C. That's what makes up a C major chord. Okay, now I want to go back to talking about the C major chord. This kind of C major chord I'm playing here is called a triad. There are other ways to play C major. Those are other shapes or inversions. But this is the most basic way to play the C major chord, and it's called a triad. You'll notice with a triad, it's a key, skip a key, skip a key, play a key. We're going to stick with our basic triad right now. Now, what I want to show you is that with the white keys, you can actually make 3 different major triads, just using white keys. We already know the first one, C major, but you can also make one where the lowest note is F. Okay, so F is the white key. You know that it's the white key just under the 3 black keys. So if we make the lowest note F and we play a triad with just using white keys, that's a major chord. And we can also make G the lowest note of our triad, and that is a major chord. I could play that down here if I wanted to, making G the lowest note down here. G major. So these are then an F major chord and a G major chord. I can play them down there, or I could play them here. Any other triad you build using only white keys will not be a major chord. It will have some other quality, either minor or diminished. So don't worry about minor and diminished chords yet. We will get there. Music is vast, but I'm only asking you to learn today's lesson today. You can learn next week's lesson next week. So let's stick with these major chords. We're going to play our three major triads that we've built on white keys now. C major, F major, and G major. Notice that since all the keys are white, every note in all three of these chords is a note that's in the C major scale, or in the key of C major. And next, let's notice that F is the fourth note, or the 4 of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's note that G is the 5th note, or the 5 of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This means that when we are in C major, in the key of C major, F major is the 4 chord. That's because it's the chord that's built on the 4, or the 4th note of C, the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it contains only notes that are in the C major scale. Now, if I build a triad on the note G, G being the lowest note, what's that? That's G major, and for the same reason as F was the 4 chord of C, G major is the 5 chord of C. Again, that's because G is the 5th note, or the 5 of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I build a triad with G as its lowest note, using those white keys that are what make up C major, then that G major chord I've built is the 5 chord of C major. So now we have learned what the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord of C major are. Lots of the greatest songs ever written are made up of nothing but the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. And in the near future you will learn how to make the 1, 4, and 5 chord of other keys, but we'll stick with C major for now. And we know the 1, 4, and 5 chords of C are C major, F major, and G major. And it just so happens that these 3 chords have a very close relationship to each other that you can hear as you play them. They work together naturally. Your exercise is now to play these chords and listen to the relationships between the chords. Start by playing the 1 chord. C, C major. Now move to the 4 chord. Now back to the 1. Do this over and over. As you play, listen to how the 4 chord feels like it wants to resolve back to the 1 chord. You'll recognize these chords too from music that you've heard. Maybe in church. Maybe you've heard the congregation singing, Amen. You might recognize the repeating 1 and 4 chords as being the chords for the Rolling Stones song, You Can't Always Get What You Want. You can't always get what you want. Or maybe you recognize it from some other song. Now, as part of this exercise, I want you to sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're singing the notes C, D, E, F, E, D, C. This will help your ear to hear the fourness of the 4 chord. It's kind of a vague concept, the fourness. But with thousands of repetitions, your brain will actually come to feel that fourness in that 4 chord. 4, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it will become second nature for you to hear that. So don't worry if you don't fully grasp the relationship between the 1 and the 4 chord right now. Just do lots and lots of repetitions and allow your brain to build its circuitry. Your understanding will grow organically and naturally. Now let's do the same exercise with the 1 chord and the 5 chord. Play 1, and now 5, G major, now 1, now 5, now 1. You'll hear that the 5 wants to resolve back to the 1, 2. In fact, to most people's ear, the 5 chord's desire to resolve to the 1 is actually felt more urgently than the 4 chord's desire to resolve back to the 1. Now, if you're not hearing that the 5 chord's desire to resolve back is stronger than the 4, don't worry, you're not necessarily hearing it wrong. You'll come to hear these chords and their relationships in your own way, and that'll be what makes you the unique musician that you are. But do listen closely as you play this series of chords. You'll also recognize this 1-5 relationship from songs that you're familiar with. The song that comes to mind for me is anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Just 1-5, 1-5, 1-5 over and over again. Now, I also want you to do the singing exercise with 1 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you're singing 1, 2. You're singing the notes C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. And finally, as part of your exercise, I want you to play all 3 of the chords in sequence. 1, 4, 5. 5, 4, 1, 4. Okay, so do this practice every day for a few days, and then when you feel you're ready, come back for part 3. You are building your theory foundation, and as always, remember to enjoy your practice. There is no test. If you feel anxiety at learning a new thing, just be willing to tolerate your anxiety and just keep walking through it. Don't let the anxiety deter you from doing your practice, but also allow yourself the luxury of relaxing and taking your time. And remind yourself that there's no test, there's no deadline. You have your whole life to learn these things. Okay, enjoy. Bye.